I'm not here to impress you with loud words or perfect timing. I'm here because some connections don't shout, they arrive gently and stay. This isn't about romance as a performance. It's about honesty, about that simple moment when you realize you don't want the world. Tonight, you just want one person sitting across from you, sharing silence, sharing truth, sharing time. When I say I need you for a date, I don't mean candles or promises or rehearsed lines. I mean a walk where we don't rush, a conversation where we don't pretend, a moment where two people choose presence over distraction. Because in a world that's always asking us to be more, do more, prove more, choosing someone even for a single evening is an act of courage. This is a talk about love that doesn't beg, love that doesn't chase, love that simply stands still and says, I see you, and I'd like to know you just as you are. I need you for a date, not because I'm lonely, not because time is passing, not because silence scares me, but because there is something honest that happens when two people agree to sit across from each other without armor. I'm not asking for perfection, I'm not asking for certainty, I'm asking for a moment that is real, a moment where we don't rush to impress, don't rehearse lines, don't hide behind humor or distance. Just a moment where we allow ourselves to be human together. A date doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful. It doesn't need a script or a destination that looks good in pictures. It needs willingness to slow down, willingness to listen without planning the next sentence, willingness to look at someone and not measure what you're getting, but notice what you're feeling. That's why I need you for a date, because presence has become rare, and when it appears it deserves respect. I'm not inviting you into a fantasy. I'm inviting you into reality, into a space where we can talk about small things and let them matter, where a pause isn't awkward, it's comfortable, where silence isn't empty, it's shared. I want a date where we can laugh without forcing it, where we can disagree without fear, where we can be quiet without wondering if something is wrong. Because the strongest connections are built when nothing is being sold. I need you for a date, because I believe love doesn't start with fireworks. It starts with safety, with the feeling that you can breathe the same way you do when you're alone, with the sense that you don't have to perform a better version of yourself to be accepted. I want to sit with you and let time move at its own pace, not the pace world demands, not the pace that social expectations set, but the pace that feels natural between two people who are simply curious about each other. There is a difference between wanting attention and wanting connection. Attention is loud. It asks to be seen. Connection is quiet. It asks to be understood. I don't need a date that looks impressive to others. I need a date that feels honest to us. A moment where we choose to be present, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's unfamiliar, even if it does lead anywhere certain. I need you for a date because choosing someone, even briefly, is an act of courage. It means saying no to distractions. It means turning down the noise. It means risking being seen. And I respect that risk. I respect the vulnerability it takes to sit across from someone and allow them to see your expressions, your pauses, your unguarded reactions. I don't take that lightly. This isn't about romance as a performance. It's about respect as a foundation, about showing up on time, not just physically but emotionally, about listening to understand, not to reply, about noticing the way your eyes change when you talk about something that matters to you, about noticing the calm that comes when you don't have to explain yourself too much. I need you for a date, because life has taught me that real moments are built slowly. They aren't rushed, they aren't forced, they aren't demanded, they are chosen. And I'm choosing to ask, not with pressure, not with expectations, but with honesty. I'm choosing to say that I value your time enough to want to share mine with you in a way that's intentional. We spend so much time protecting ourselves that we forget how healing it is to be gently open. A date can be a space where defenses rest for a while, where you don't have to prove strength. Where you don't have to explain your past, where you can simply exist as you are right now, not as who you were, not as who you might become, but as who you are in this moment. I need you for a date, because I want to know how you see the world when you're not trying to impress anyone. I want to hear the stories you don't tell often. I want to notice the way you listen, not just the way you speak. I want to understand the rhythm of your thoughts, the pauses between them, the things you choose to emphasize, and the things you let pass quietly. This isn't about promises, it's about presence. I'm not offering certainty, I'm offering sincerity. A date is not a contract, it's a conversation. It's an agreement to be honest for a little while, to show up without masks, to allow something real to happen, even if it's small, even if it's brief. I need you for a date because I believe that meaningful connections are built when two people decide to be gentle with each other, when they choose patience over pressure, when they allow curiosity to replace assumptions. I want to ask questions and actually listen to the answers. I want to share thoughts that don't have a polished ending. I want to be present enough to notice when the conversation drifts and let it drift without pulling it back forcefully. There's a quiet strength in choosing simplicity, in choosing a walk over a show, a conversation over distraction, a shared moment over constant stimulation. I need you for a date that feels simple and true, one where we don't rush to label what it means, one where we let the experience speak for itself. I'm not asking you to fill a space in my life. I'm asking you to share a moment in it. There's a difference. Filling is about need. Sharing is about choice. And choice is where respect lives. I respect you enough to ask, not to assume, to invite, not to demand, to wait for your answer without pressure. I need you for a date because I believe that the way we begin something matters. Beginning with honesty sets a tone. Beginning with calm builds trust. Beginning with patience allows room for truth. I want to begin with a conversation that doesn't rush toward an outcome, one that allows us to learn who we are in each other's presence. We often confuse excitement with connection. Excitement fades quickly. Connection deepens quietly. I'm not chasing intensity. I'm choosing depth. I want to see how it feels to sit with you and let the world slow down for a moment, to notice how time behaves when it isn't being chased. I need you for a day because I value emotional safety, because I believe romance should feel like permission to be yourself, not pressure to be someone else, because I believe attraction grows when people feel understood, not evaluated. I want to create a space where we can both relax into who we are. This date doesn't need to impress anyone else. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to be explained or justified. It only needs to be honest. Honest about our intentions, honest about our boundaries, honest about our curiosity. I want to meet you where you are, not where expectations say you should be. I need you for a date because there is something rare about choosing presence in a distracted world, about choosing one conversation instead of many notifications, about choosing depth instead of speed, about choosing a real human moment over endless options. I'm not promising that everything will make sense immediately. I'm promising to be present, to listen, to respect your pace, to allow things to unfold naturally without forcing meaning too soon. I want a date that feels like a pause from the noise, not another form of it. I need you for a date because I believe that asking gently is a form of strength. That vulnerability doesn't weaken us, it clarifies us. That showing up honestly is more attractive than any rehearsed confidence. I want to show up as I am and give you the same freedom. This is an invitation, not an expectation. An offer, not a demand. A moment, not a lifetime. I'm asking because I value the possibility of something real, even if it's just a conversation that stays with us longer than the evening itself. I need you for a date because I believe that the most meaningful moments in life often begin quietly, without announcement, without pressure, without certainty, with just two people choosing to sit down and see what happens when they allow themselves to be present, curious, and kind, when they all allow the conversation to breathe, when they allow the silence to speak, when they allow themselves to feel without rushing to define it, when they allow the moment to exist exactly as it is without trying to turn it into something else, when they allow the connection to unfold at its own pace, when they allow honesty to replace performance, when they allow respect to guide every word, every pause, every glance, every shared second, when they allow the date to be what it is rather than what it is supposed to be, when they allow themselves to simply sit there together in the quiet courage of choosing presence over everything else. I need you for a date because before romance, before attraction, before stories we tell ourselves about what this could become, there has to be safety. Not the loud kind that promises everything will be perfect, but the quiet kind that allows you to exhale. Emotional safety is when you don't feel watched, judged, measured, or tested. It's when you can sit across from someone and feel like you're allowed to be unfinished. That's the kind of space I'm asking for. Not excitement first. Not chemistry as a performance. Safety first. We live in a world where people rush toward labels but avoid vulnerability, where emotions are shared in fragments, edited and filtered, but rarely offered whole. A date to me is not a stage. It's a room with the door closed to the noise outside. A place where you don't have to protect every sentence, where you can change your mind halfway through a thought and not feel embarrassed. Emotional safety is knowing that your honesty won't be used against you later. I need you for a date because I want to build something that doesn't require you to shrink or harden. You don't have to be impressive. You don't have to be endlessly positive. You don't have to pretend you've healed everything. You're allowed to be thoughtful. You're allowed to be quiet. You're allowed to say, I don't know, and let it sit there without rushing to fix it. That permission is rare. And when it exists, it changes how two people relate to each other. Romance without safety is just tension. It burns fast and leaves confusion behind. Safety slows things down in the best way. It allows curiosity to replace fear. It allows attraction to grow naturally instead of being forced. I'm not interested in the kind of date where we're both trying to look unbothered. I'm interested in the kind where we can admit when something matters to us. When we can say, we're nervous without losing dignity, I need you for a date. Because emotional safety is built through small, respectful choices. Showing up on time. Listening without interrupting, not mocking vulnerability, not turning someone's openness into entertainment. It's built when you realize you don't need to win the conversation, you don't need to dominate it, you just need to be present enough to let the other person feel heard. There's something powerful about sitting with someone who isn't trying to rush intimacy, who understands that trust doesn't respond well to pressure. I want a date where nothing is expected beyond honesty, where there's no silent test, no hidden checklist, no countdown. Just two people allowing themselves to notice how it feels to be in the same space without defenses raised. Emotional safety means you don't have to explain your boundaries with guilt. You don't have to justify your pace. You don't have to apologize for needing clarity. A safe connection is one where your no is respected and your yes isn't taken for granted. Where interest is expressed calmly, not aggressively. Where desire doesn't override respect. I need you for a date because I believe love grows best where people feel emotionally protected, not emotionally chased. I want to create a moment where you feel free to be honest about what you want and what you don't. Where you can speak without worrying that your words will be twisted later. Where listening matters more than impressing. So many people confuse emotional intensity with emotional depth. Intensity is loud. Depth is steady. Safety lives in steadiness. In the way someone reacts when you share something personal. In the way they hold silence, instead of feeling it nervously. In the way they respond when you disagree. I want a date that reveals these things naturally, without pressure. I need you for a date because I want to know how you treat moments that don't benefit you directly. How you respond when the conversation isn't about you. How you handle pauses. How you respect emotional space. These things matter more to me than charm or confidence. They tell me whether a connection can last beyond attraction. Emotional safety is when you don't feel like you're auditioning for acceptance. When you don't feel the need to exaggerate your stories or hide your doubts. It's when you can sit there and feel equal. Not above, not below, just equal. That balance changes everything. It allows affection to be genuine instead of strategic. I need you for a date. Because I want to practice being gentle with another person's inner world. I want to ask questions that aren't invasive. I want to listen without trying to fix. I want to respect what you choose to share and what you choose to keep. Emotional safety is knowing that your inner life will be handled with care. We often rush toward romance because it feels like progress. But real progress happens when two people learn how to sit comfortably in uncertainty together. When they don't demand immediate clarity. When they allow feelings to develop instead of forcing them to declare themselves. Safety allows attraction to breathe. I need you for a day because I believe the way someone makes you feel emotionally is more important than how they make you feel desired. Desire without safety creates anxiety. Safety allows desire to feel warm instead of overwhelming. I want a date where nervousness turns into calm, not more pressure. There is courage in slowing down, in choosing to know someone rather than conquer a moment. Emotional safety requires patience. It requires maturity. It requires the ability to be interested without being entitled. I want to bring that energy to a date. And I want to meet it there too. I need you for a date. Because I want to create a space where honesty is rewarded, not punished. Where vulnerability is met with respect, not curiosity that feels invasive. Where emotions are acknowledged, not minimized. Where boundaries are seen as clarity, not rejection, a safe sea. Connection is one where laughter doesn't come at someone's expense, where teasing doesn't cross into dismissal, where differences don't turn into power struggles. I want a date that feels like mutual care from the start. Even if it doesn't lead anywhere beyond that moment, I need you for a date because emotional safety changes how people remember each other. You may forget what was said, but you never forget how someone made you feel inside your own skin. I want to be remembered as someone who felt calm, respectful, and real. And I want to remember you the same way. Romance can wait, attraction can grow. What matters first is whether two people can share a moment without tension, without fear of missteps, without pretending. Emotional safety is the foundation that makes everything else meaningful. I need you for a date Because I'm not trying to impress your eyes. I'm trying to respect your heart. I want a conversation where we don't rush toward conclusions, where we let understanding come before desire, where we let comfort lead the way. In a world that rewards speed, choosing safety is a quiet rebellion. It's choosing depth over drama, presence over performance. I want a date that feels like that choice. One where we both leave feeling more at ease than when we arrived. I need you for a date because emotional safety is not built by grand gestures, it's built by consistency, by tone, by patience, by listening, by allowing someone to be fully themselves without consequence. T's the kind of connection I'm willing to show up for. This is not about convincing you of anything. It's about creating a moment where nothing needs to be defended, where curiosity feels natural, where openness feels safe, where two people can sit together and let trust begin quietly, gently, without force, without rush, without fear, letting emotional safety come first and guide every word, every pause, every shared glance, allowing the connection to unfold at its own pace, held together by respect, calm, and the quiet understanding that nothing real needs to be hurried.